have bipolar disorder and have faithfully been taking Wellbutrin XL 450 milligrams every morning for the last 4 years. At the time, I was not on a mood stabilizer and was in the midst of a major depressive episode. I don't believe that had any effect on the physiological symptoms, however. After drinking enough to be fairly inebriated, I thought it would be a good idea to take approximately 9 tablets of 150 milligrams of Wellbutrin XL because it was the only drug that ever worked for me. If it didn't improve my mood, I'd hoped it would at least kill me or knock me out for a long time. I took the pills around 2 or 3 a.m. and went to bed immediately after. Around 6 a.m., I practically jumped out of the bed, extremely disoriented due to the incredible nervous energy radiating throughout my body and mind. I was twitching, uncoordinated, and had slight difficulty choosing words. I snuck out of my apartment without waking my boyfriend or friends, and hopped on a bus to get to a train station which would take me to a hospital I knew fairly well. I definitely blacked out on the bus, and probably looked like I was overdosing on something. At this point, my sense of time was non-existent, and I knew that Wellbutrin can cause hallucinations. I was terrified that my heart was going to simply stop from beating so fast, and incredibly paranoid that I was seeing and interacting with things that weren't there, or failing to register important information like oncoming cars. 30 feet from the bus stop, I had a seizure and fell down all the stairs leading into the subway. I have no idea how long I was unconscious, or whether it was because of the seizure, or my head making the acquaintance of each and every stair. I woke up feeling very strange, and all I can think of is, why is my face so cold? Why do I feel like I'm lying down when I'm not? Why is my face so cold? That went on for a while. Then I realized there was a man standing over me. He asked me if I was okay. I definitely was not okay, but I nodded on post-seizure autopilot. I kept laying there on the ground, and he walked away without another word. That was a fairly strange interaction, so I'm not sure if he was real. I was growing more and more disoriented, incoherent, and I knew my auditory, visual, and tactile perception was distorted. I eventually made my way onto the train and wound up getting off at the wrong stop and having no idea where I was, where I was going, or if people I was seeing everywhere were real. I kept hearing fast footsteps all around me, hissing whispers in male voices, and gentle muffled feminine voices, almost like singing. After I saw there wasn't a living soul on any of the blocks I could see, my thinking was a little less realistic. Instead of suspecting a rapist or mugger, I thought maybe they were demons and angels arguing and coming to escort me from this world. But they were definitely auditory hallucinations. I had lost my phone when falling down the stairs and had no money or ID. Thankfully, I remembered the word hospital, and my heart palpitations, increasingly fast pulse rate, higher and higher blood pressure, and terrifying confusion kept reminding me of my mission. I believe I found my way to the hospital myself, because that's where I wound up. By the time I got there, around 10 to 11 a.m., I was so incoherent that I insisted it was the year 2006, but I did know who the president was. When they asked how many pills I took, I said, a multiple of 3, like 3, or 9, or 12. Well, it obviously wasn't 3, and for personal reasons, it makes a lot of sense that I would take a multiple of 3, so 9 or 12 is what I'm sticking with. 11 to noon is when the barfing began. It wasn't cathartic in any way. I was afraid my heart was going to come out of my mouth. Literally everything felt like it was shaking and twitching, including my heart and other organs. It was probably exacerbated by my frantic and incoherent racing thoughts and distorted sensory perception. That went on for hours. It was impossible to sleep or rest because of the terrible nervous energy and thudding heart. They kept me in the cardiology unit for 3 days, hooked up to an IV, mad electrodes, and just so many wires that I couldn't get out of bed without help. After about a day and a half, my heart slowed down enough that I could sleep fairly well. After 2 days, I felt mostly fine and eager to get out. They gave me some more brain scans and sent me on my merry way. Throughout the entire experience, I felt incredibly guilty, terrified, embarrassed, and later belittled by understandably insensitive hospital staff. I do not recommend taking Wellbutrin recreationally. I have experimented with smaller dosages, 750 milligrams to 900 milligrams, and the effects are the same, only a bit less intense. None of them are enjoyable because there's an overwhelming sense of paranoia, and any visual hallucinations are usually terrifying or startling at the least. Here are some examples from my personal experience. Male voices hissing and female voices singing, which are quite disconcerting when alone. Seeing movement and shadows in my peripherals, which disappear rapidly the second I turn to look. I once saw an overturned bowl in my kitchen with 2 wasps flying around inside and buzzing clear as day. I didn't understand how they possibly could have gotten there, so I had a friend come over to verify. There were no wasps, and amusingly, there was no bowl either. Very convincing footsteps every time I have overdosed or even taken 1 or 2 extra. The creepiest part is that when I stop to turn around and see if someone is following you, the footsteps always stop too. I thought maybe I was hearing my own steps, but they're always the same. I'd hear heeled boots hitting concrete, even when I was walking barefoot on carpet. Pair that up with the sneaky shadows and movement in the peripherals, and you have created a nice little nightmare for yourself that can last up to 24 hours. There are so many better things to do recreationally than Wellbutrin. Do yourself a favor. Never take more than 450 milligrams, and only use it for its amazing, depression-ravaging properties. I'm not sure as to why I decided to do it. Anything for a high, I guess. But anyway, one night near the end of the summer, I took a bunch of my Wellbutrin pills. At first, I didn't feel much. I got a little drowsy after about 40 minutes, and I laid down and watched TV. I started to see little things on the floor, and they looked like spiders, but I knew that it was just in my head, so I didn't care. And then I felt sick, so I got up and tried to walk to the bathroom. It felt like the world was flipping violently from side to side, and I couldn't even make it out the door, so I had to crawl the rest of the way. The rest of the night is extremely hazy to me, but the things I do remember are that I spent most of it by the toilet, and the rest lying on the floor outside the bathroom, because I couldn't seem to get any farther than that. I remember thinking that I was going to die, and hoping I would, because I have never felt that bad in my entire life. My mother found me the next morning, lying on the carpet in a pile of my own vomit. And the next couple of days were spent in my bed. I was unable to walk properly for days, and I chewed the skin off the insides of my cheeks. I'm pretty sure I had a seizure. Wellbutrin is known to cause seizures in high doses, and my memory's been pretty messed up ever since. It was without a doubt the worst experience of my life. Trust me, it's not worth it. This incident took place last Thursday night. It was one of those events that removes the divide between your secretive hidden life from the life you portray to others. Like 2 worlds colliding in an instant, and after it's over, you better hope you have a good character to fall back on after you lose your blanket of lies. Anyways, this was one of those. It sucks ass, by the way. I have recently obtained a prescription for Wellbutrin SR 100mg tabs for a major depressive disorder that I've struggled with for who cares how long. I discontinued Prozac for no good reason. It worked fine, but I heard Bupropion could give you a buzz, being a dopamine. I take Adderall XR in addition for ADD, but mainly because it can fuck you up, but that's a different story. This is what happened. On Thursday morning, we had a snow day. When I have nothing to do, I get in trouble. It's just how I am. I spent the morning at my neighbor's, snorting cocaine and feeling cool. That night, I was in my room and had no high whatsoever. And so reality had sunk in, and due to my major lack of coping skills, I had to get high again, any kind of high. All I had was Wellbutrin. I popped 5 or 6 100mg tabs and waited for about a half an hour, felt nothing. I went to eat dinner with my mom, and soon enough, I started to feel pretty good. I told my mom, I feel pretty damn good. And then everything goes black. I awake roughly 10 minutes later in the kitchen, sitting in a chair. Someone has their hand in my shirt, and I assume it's a weird dream. It becomes apparent there are 2 EMTs crouched next to me, putting electro things on my chest, and about 7 firefighters surrounding them. I don't know what to think. I was very, very frightened and very, very disoriented. I remember yelling, "What's going on?" and my mom telling me that I had a seizure and explaining to the paramedics what had happened. It was very bizarre and strangely horrifying. It was the lapse in time that I found particularly disturbing. I was escorted to the ambulance and was hysterical at the idea of being taken away. The ambulance seems to scare me more than being put in a police car, but yeah, I was freaking out. I was hooked up to the monitor and all that, and away we went, en route to Legacy Emmanuel Hospital. My heart rate was roughly 180 beats per minute, pretty damn high. The paramedic put an IV in, which hurt like a bitch. I was asked all sorts of questions about my meds. I explained that I abused all of them, yada yada. It was no fun. At the hospital, I was wheeled in on the bed and felt like a lazy bum and insisted on walking, but they weren't having it. I got my own room and spent some very strange and silent moments with my mom and little brother, finally calm enough to ask what the hell just happened. I explained my long-hidden Adderall addiction to some relief, my mom being cool about it. They took some blood, gave me a CAT scan and some funny looks, but no lollipop, which really pissed me off. The blood showed traces of cocaine. Busted. Now all my meds are regulated, and my relationship with my parents is very strained, but getting better. I was unconscious during the seizure, but being told what it was like was heartbreaking coming from my little brother. He wrote me a long letter begging me to get off of drugs because he loves me, and it just tore my fucking heart out. It's been a miserable week. Wellbutrin should not be fucked with. Of course, neither should any pharmaceuticals. Grand mal seizures are very, very scary. It is now a haunting experience and a valuable lesson. Peace. I am no stranger to substance abuse, and have literally tried everything, including the hardest street drugs, but this was by far the scariest experience I've ever had. Now to get to my story. I was prescribed Wellbutrin 150 milligrams and Seroquel 100 milligrams, which I took for several weeks with no problems, and I did not abuse. I generally felt no effects of being fucked up from the Wellbutrin, but the Seroquel did make me feel very tired and disoriented. Around the 4th week of taking this combination, I took my meds as usual before bed and told my girlfriend I was going to sleep. It was around 11 p.m. and she stayed up to watch TV. About 20 minutes later, I was staring at my girlfriend and all the lights were on. I asked her what she was doing, and she said I had a seizure and the ambulance was on the way. I had no memory of this. I didn't believe her and was pissed about what was sure to be an expensive ambulance ride. I tried to sit up in bed and was absolutely crippled by the worst back pain I had ever felt. The EMTs arrived and had to take me out on a stretcher as I could not move. I was admitted to the ER and they gave me the works: CAT scan, x-rays, MRIs, you name it. When the x-rays came back, the doctor told me I had 5 fractured vertebrae in my back. He didn't believe that I had not fallen and said the injuries looked as though I had jumped off a 3-story building and landed on my feet. I had no memory of the seizure, but my girlfriend witnessed it all and assured them I never left the bed. The seizure was just so violent that it was able to do that kind of damage. I recovered in the hospital for 5 days and was unable to walk normally for months. It was an absolutely terrifying experience. I later found out that both these medications lower the seizure threshold and taken in combination can be dangerous. I found out the hard way. Please research your meds before taking them. Doctors are human and make mistakes just like everyone else. I will never take these medications again, and unless I was currently in a psychotic state, I would not take Seroquel.